Hello, this is farming all terror zones on player 8. I've done this once already. I initially did it so that way I could find a latent sunder charm, and guess what I didn't find. So, we're going to do it again. I'll record it this time. Initially, the first time, I had 128 magic find, FCR above 75, I was using Ondals with 3 skills, a really good circlet without a num. I added it afterwards, why not? And then a really good crafted amulet. This compendium, also put the in after I was done with the runs. Made an authority, mage fist, FCR with magic find, gold wrap, bunch of resist with magic find, sandstorm treks, heeds, 37 magic find, 3 skillers, and then a bunch of magic find charms as well as a lightning resist at 11% charm. Fire there, lightning there. Spent 4 days, probably 1,000 Nightmare Andy runs looking for a Soj to make this Annie. On my offhand, got a Nash for the teleport and a Rhyme. My skills, nothing in Chaos. Eldridge, just 1 to Blade Warp. Demon, maxed out Bind Demon, Engorge, Blood Boil, Blood Oath, and the rest of the points went into Demonic Mastery. Some of the gear, initially I put on a BK, and then these 3 additional items, so that way I could get the highest roll possible for capturing Hephaesto. Ended up getting one that has Holy Freeze for this next set of runs, so that'll be useful. My Mercenary. Initially I was using an Act 1 Mercenary, and it wasn't until Act 5 that I swapped over to Act 2. I think I'll keep that. It looks to be a little bit better for these runs, but both were using Bramble, as well as a Vamp Gaze. In keeping with tradition, I put the in after I was done with the runs. Both were using an Insight, just obviously the bow for the Act 1. I had the smoke as a backup just in case, ended up not using it. The gear that I found a bunch of skillers or re-rolled with gems, as well as a bunch of random other charms. Some of the unique gear I found this in the barracks. Some random yellow gear, rings, jewel, some more charms, some more uniques and sets. Found a bunch of circlets that I'll have other characters imbue. And then a bunch of random bases. Found a few more bases here. Had a bunch of charms, so that way I could do some crafting. These are some of the gloves I crafted, as well as the rings, or sorry, amulets. Obviously found those too. And then one last base. Overall, I'm at level 95 right now. I think I got 4 levels in the last run I did. Let's see what we can get this time around. Alright, I've gone ahead and cleared out my stash, so we're ready for this run. I kept just these items because I didn't want to deal with putting them on a different character. Kept the edge for any gambling along the way. Shared stash is empty, except for 200k for any initial repairs, a bunch of jewels for crafting, and then Kaheeds and torch that I didn't want to deal with taking off of my shared stash. Kept the teleport staff there just because. Gems and runes have been entirely cleared with the exception of 50 rubies, 50 amethyst, 20 neph, 20 ral, 20 am, and 10 soul, so that way I could do some crafting along the way. All my materials, I just left them as they were, didn't want to deal with that. I will not cube anything to the best of my ability so we can see start to finish what do I actually find. In my inventory, on my body, I only swapped out 3 things. That's my authority for the Scolder's Ire with a P topaz, boots for war traps, and then when I did that, I'm not good at math, I dropped my strength with the war traps, which means I couldn't wear the Scolders, so I had to look at my mule to find this. Pretty good, faster cast, 5 strength, and a bunch of resist. So, final gear review. I've got a 3 skill Ondal, this circlet, this warlock amulet, an blasphemous compendium, P topaz Scolder's Ire, the mage fist, same ring that we just talked about, gold wrap, the same ring that I used on my last run, which is this magic find and resist, 46 war traps, 37 Kaheeds, 3 skillers. Spent a lot of time farming for this warlock 1716 torch, I swapped out all my small charms to have a 7 magic find, with the exception of this one, so that way I could have 6 fire resist. Still have the Annie, still have the Nash for teleport, as well as the Rhyme and the offhand. That gives me 317 magic find and above 75 faster cast. My Mercenary still has the Eth Bramble, the to Vamp Gaze, and then a 13 meditation insight. As Leroy Jenkins once didn't say, let's do this. Surprise, surprise. The only thing Corpse Fire dropped was Frost Nova. Spoiler alert, there's only 1.5 good set amulets in the game, and it's neither of those. Well, nothing to see here. I think this skull is probably the best drop in the entire place. Fun fact, when you terrorize all of Act 1, it doesn't terrorize the Moo farm. Not that it really matters though, because Doom rules are in effect. If it moves, kill it. I know that I forgot to prove it at the start of the video, and it doesn't really occur to me until Act 4 that I should prove this, but nonetheless, everything is players 8. And even though this is not a terrorized zone, I have no issue mowing down all of these cows. And even once I go back to the terrorized zones, everything is super easy. This build is busted. Yep, I really am showing you guys literally every single set or unique item that drops, even though they're pretty much all garbage. Ooh, a Mighty Scepter. What is that? I don't know. I guess you'll have to wait a sec. Well, that's pretty cool. I don't know what to use it for, though. Just a little bit of tactical retreating so my Merc doesn't die. Oh yeah, I forgot that that's why I'm even doing these runs in the first place. Didn't I just find these? So I guess this technique doesn't really matter anymore since the new patch just dropped, which changes the way that the Herald spawns. But before the patch, if you kind of just teleport or blade warp around, eventually you'll meet a pack that meets the requirements to actually spawn the Herald. And then once you're done, you go back and clean up all the monsters to start drawing in the ire for the next one. Alright, not too bad. I actually really love these for mercenaries. I've noticed from doing this multiple times now that the first half of the first 3 acts, you pretty much don't draw the ire of the Herald at all, and then all of a sudden about halfway through it just starts to ramp up.
I can't carry anymore.
Oops, mercenary died. I guess I should have been paying more attention to him than I was to the drops. Not that it really matters, because I think he died pretty much every single Herald fight anyways. You can also see that I'm slowing down killing the Heralds as they evolve like Pokemon into stronger beings. That's why I'm looking for other skills to see if I've got another way to kill this thing. Number 3, let's go. Found her. Alright, let's let Hephaestus do all the work while we sit pretty safe behind this wall and do nothing. Man, this build is just busted. Alright, I guess the one thing this build is not good for is one-on-one, especially when Hephaestus just keeps running back to me and I'm trying to dodge the Dark Archers before they just one-shot me. I wonder if there's a build that would actually use this. Wait, was that the Countess? I hardly noticed she was even there. This way. I meant this way. Go away, little guy. Hephaestus, get him!
I can't carry anymore.
Well, look, it's Zarfin's favorite item. This is another one of those items with a lot of potential that kind of gets wasted. Came up with this word, man? Coif. Defense is another item that I just found non-stop throughout this entire run.
I am overburdened.
How am I just now getting the 5th ire when I'm already in Catacombs level 1? Alright. Looks like Hephaestus is actually not doing too bad for this first Herald of Terror. But, as predicted, the drops are pretty bad. Well, that's the end of Act 1, which is actually super easy. I melted Andy, so nothing really gave me any trouble, so let's go to Act 2. Well, that was a weird color glitch. I think my computer's starting to show signs that it's not happy it's been running Diablo for this long.
I am overburdened.
Alright, this is where this build really starts to shine, is Act 2. All these tombs, I get to hide behind walls and just start doing Deathmark over the doors and everything, and I can stay completely protected, and so does my mercenary. They kind of just hang out with me. Meanwhile, Hephaestus is just on the other side of the wall smacking faces with hammers, while the Defilers are binding all their souls together, and so it's super, super simple for me. Yep, I'm even doing the Maga lair. Like I told you guys, Doom rules are in effect, so if it moves, kill it. That doesn't exclude the Maga lair. Thankfully with Hephaestus, I could just use Death Mark and put him in front of me, and I have no issue pushing through these things. Oh, it's been so long since I've seen that. I forgot again that that's why we're doing this. Whoa, I didn't realize that Blade Warp will actually trigger the Torch proc. Yeah, like I said in Act 1, I don't know why, but the first half of at least the first 3 acts, you spend the entire time building whatever credits are required to actually trigger the Herald. As usual, bye-bye mercenary. Alright, well, this is the first Herald that's actually kind of tough, and unfortunately the rest of them are just like this and start to get even harder. But I guess it'd be like that. Still no latent Sunder Charm. Thankfully he gave me some Gore Foots. Gore Feet? Gore Foot? I don't know. Oh look, another unique amulet. It's probably just another knock. Oh my goodness, it's a Mara's. No way, dude. It's been 25 years. I have never found this. That is so cool. Oh, but I can't wear it because mine makes more sense. These F Gore Riders are pretty cool, but honestly, like, even though that Mars is like pretty run-of-the-mill average at only 24 resist, that is so cool, man. Alright, y'all are gonna have to forgive me on this one. This is actually the only time I'm in the Arcane Sanctuary. I don't know how my brain farted so hard, but man, it pretty much pooped the bed on this one because I never come back and I just thought I was done with it. Anyways, here's another great example of why this build is so good in the tombs. I'm just sitting on the other side of this door while Hephaestus is in the room just swinging away with his hammer, and I'm using blood boil but still keeping him alive. No issues. Stop giving me Sanders Taboo. 2 tombs down, 5 more to go. Look at how easy this is. I just get to hang out in the corridor and use blood boil while Hephaestus guards the doorway and face tanks all the sparkles. Even my mercenaries somehow staying alive. BRB, gotta heal. Since there's no corpses on the ground, I actually have to go back to town to get them healed up. Well, I guess it's not a totally classic Duriel drop. There's no town portal scrolls. You were probably expecting me to start Act 3, but nope, I've still got more tombs to clear. I might have forgot about the Arcane Sanctuary, but I was at least trying to be diligent and clear all this stuff out.
I can't.
Bring on the dolls. Nothing good in here.
I am overburdened.
Honestly, this act isn't too bad. With all the fetishes and soul killers running around, it's actually not that hard because the Defilers just bind their souls together, and then Hephaestus is so strong, he hits a 1 and they all pop. Okay, there's the dolls. Let's make sure that Hephaestus tanks all those, please. I'm just gonna play this nice and slow in case there's any more dolls, or in case it gets worse and there's Oh my god, there are souls. Fun fact, just in case you guys didn't know, you're less likely to find a troll belt in Lower Karast than you are to find a troll in the dungeon. Real talk though, the loot this act has been garbage. Look at these sneaky snakes trying to set up an ambush on me. I don't think so. Alright, come on, Blizzard. Look at this. I'm at the end of the act and I'm just now getting the next ire.
I'm overburdened. I can't carry it.
This thing's name is Warped Slime. Where are you warping your slime to, you weirdo? Another spoiler for you guys. This is the only herald I find for literally all of Act 3. Quick little tactical retreat here. Great use of the doorway. Nice, nice. Why am I not surprised by these drops?
I can't.
Look, another torch proc from using Blade Warp. That's kind of neat. How is the Durance of Hate level 2 this massive, but nonetheless I find absolutely zero loot? Mistborn is kind of neat. I don't know when you would use it, but whatever. It's also the best thing I found for the whole act. If you listen real close, you can hear my dog bark. I didn't realize my mic was still on. Here's another weird name, Puke Bender. I honestly thought this would be a tougher fight just based on how previous fights with the Heralds have gone. It just shows how strong and overpowered the Heralds are. Well, prior to the most recent patch, that is. Oh, look! The stairs right here! That's cool. Let's go the other way. Ire and a War Strike. I've actually never seen this item before, but it looks cool. This is about to be a very long fight. The Herald is not only level 96 and extra strong because of the Terrorized Zone, but it also has stone skin and is extra fast, which of course means his minions are too. Oh, and he's cursed with Holy Freeze. It takes a Hephaesto a long time to kill all the worms, and of course more keep getting summoned. You make a couple of trips back to town and you even get close to dying, relatively of course. I only get to half health. These runs might as well be hardcore for me, because if I die, I have to completely reset, since it requires me to get another Hephaesto with the right stats. So, let's use this time to talk about the patch 3.2 notes and how it's going to change from what I did in this run to what it's going to look like in the next one. For starters, I won't have a non-Grimoire offhand. That's not really a big deal though, since there's still plenty of options. There were a lot of changes to Echoing Strike, but almost nothing to Blood Boil and pretty negligible changes to Demons, which I thought was super weird because this build has just been so good. Although I haven't tried Echoing Strike yet like I have with Blood Boil, I'm curious if it could do what this build is doing right now. Patch 3.2 changes the rules for binding a demon, but because I'm already level 96 and bind demon is already maxed, there's no real change to my ability to bind Hephaesto. There's a note that a health cap was added, but it doesn't really specify what that looks like, and based on some messing around, I haven't noticed a big change yet. He still seems pretty immortal to me. Auras on demons were modified, so you can't get Conviction anymore, among a few others. However, because Blood Boil does physical and fire damage, that was never something I cared about. Right now, I'm using Holy Freeze for the CC in case any monsters get past Hephaesto and run at me. The available auras are now Concentration, Vigor, Thorns, Holy Freeze, and Fanaticism. Because my Merc is already providing Might and Thorns, I think I'm going to swap for Fanaticism on my next run. This is why Conviction isn't important in my opinion. Half of the strength of this build comes from how strong Hephaesto's single attacks are, and how that damage is shared between enemies because of the two Defilers binding up to 10 monsters at any time. The other half of the damage comes from Blood Boil, but most of the time for the first 3 acts, Hephaestus doesn't actually need me to use Blood Boil. It's just a little bit quicker if I do. This part of the run is probably one of the only times that I actually needed to use Blood Boil to help him out. The next change is probably the most important. Similar to Manbear Pig, there's a third half to this build, and that's the practically constant amplified damage proc. Curse from Bound Demons has been severely nerfed to cast amplified damage from 75% down to just 5. This change will certainly weaken the build, but considering how well it's performing at Players 8 with every Terror Zone being extra strong, I don't think it's going to make a big difference when not in extra strong zones. For Blood Boil, the only change was updating the range based on level, but at max level, based on what I've read, it seems to be about the same. Demonic Mastery did get an attack speed cap at 25%, but Hephaestus' damage is based on raw power, not attack speed. And since Might and Fanaticism should stack, swapping to a Fanaticism Hephaestus should negate the attack speed cap while simultaneously increasing damage output. Blood Oath has diminishing scaling, but that shouldn't affect me since I'm full build. And I've never used Consume because I've never needed to. I think both of these skill changes will remain pretty transparent to me. Last but not least, Terror Zones. The whole reason I'm doing this run is because I want a Latent Sunder Charm, which I have yet to find. The new patch made it supposedly easier to find them by allowing them to drop Herald Tier 1 instead of Tier 4. Tiers 3 and 4 also have twice the increased chance to drop the charms, with Tier 5 having 3 times the increased chance. They can also drop from any monster, not just Heralds. Drop rate is also no longer affected by player count. Of course, I'll still stay Players 8 on the next run because I want the XP, and I think this build can do it. There's a developer note saying that they nerfed the drops for unique, set, and rare items to keep them from being loot goblins. But as you see from these runs, that never seemed to be the case, at least not for me. There's also no more chasing down the heralds after you draw their ire. They spawn almost immediately on you, no more teleporting to find them. There's another developer note that states how in the player test realm, they saw heralds spawning too frequently. The PTR must have been very different than what I'm seeing now because I only saw 14 heralds in this whole run. But the note states that the PTR showed 30 to 40 heralds per game, and they then further increased it in patch 3.2 to 70 to 90. I hope this is true. Lastly, the herald health and damage scaling was reduced, making them weaker and easier to kill. Just look at the one I'm still stuck on. This will be a good change. Long story short, Demon Immortality was capped, Demon Conviction, Holy Fire, Holy Shock, Might, and Blessed Aim were removed. Curse chance to cast amplified damage got a huge nerf, Blood Boil was hardly touched, and Herald's damage and health scaling got nerfed by half. Overall, even though demons got a nerf, they remain strong, and when mixed with Blood Boil become especially OP. Added to the Herald nerf and increased spawn rates, I think it's a net win for this build. We'll see in my next run for sure though. Yeah, this Herald definitely wasn't a loot goblin. Listen to Hephaestus, he's still ready to keep fighting. Uh-oh, there's his twin. Let's see which one is stronger. First though, let me clear out all these monsters so they can have an actual one-on-one. Yeah, far from being twinsies. This was never going to be a fair fight. Right here is where I realize I never actually proved to you guys that I'm on Players 8, so let me show you. However, I have to type it out because if I try to go into my options, I've seen this before, it'll completely freeze me and I don't want to lose this run. Hopefully, how fast I'm killing these Venom Lords will prove that I've been Players 8 this whole time. I don't know why, but I really love this item. For this fight, I definitely could have let Hephaestus do his thing and he would have had no issue on his own, but it's a little bit quicker, like I said, if he used Blood Boil, so here's me going back to town to heal him real fast.
Hail to you, champion.
Good evening.
Finally, Act 5. Let's get this thing going. And yes, I'm still Players 8. I'm starting to see a little bit of lag, and I'm super concerned right here because I was once playing on a Barbarian, and after I killed Shank, I lagged out with all the fire, and my computer's been running this game for about 8 days straight now, so I'm really concerned. Of course my mercenary is going to ruin this perfect strategy. We're super safe behind this door, but of course he's going to destroy it so that way he can get involved. Meanwhile, Hephaestus is doing his own thing and he's got no problem with it.
I am overburdened.
That's interesting. Is that supposed to be a glitch? Is that like actually going to spawn two? Or did they just do the words twice? Okay, well there's number one. Wait, what am I doing? Hold on. Check this cheese out. One sec, one sec. Much better. My mercenary can stay over here and not die, but still be helpful. Oh man, I really hate when I do that. I need to pay more attention to Hephaestus' health and make sure I don't lose him to blood boil. I'm not even sure if he can, but I get so close sometimes. Not a single drop in all of Glacial Trail or in the Drifter Cavern. I'm not totally surprised though. At least I got an ire out of this, even if it does answer the question that I'm only going to get one Herald over the 2 ires I got earlier. Oh man, lag is starting to get a lot more noticeable. And like I said, I don't feel comfortable going into the options because typically when I do, when I've been playing this game for a while, it lags me out and I have to restart. And man, I am so close to finishing. That's not happening. I'll have to minimize and see if I can figure out on the desktop what's slowing me down. If I didn't know any better, I'd say I was playing on my cousin's Mac again back in 2002. Hey, come back here. Stupid thing keeps running. Oh, look at that. It is give me 2 heralds when I got the 2 ires earlier. Okay, that's actually a pretty decent drop for the Herald. That's pretty abnormal, I would say. Alright, I closed Steam, closed Discord, restarted my recording software. This is much better. Normally that's a pretty emotional fight, but he just melted. First high rune of the game, and the only one. It's not bad though. Well, I obviously can't use Blood Boil anymore, so I guess Hephaestus is going to have to figure this out on his own, but that's obviously not a problem. Alright, the 14th and unfortunately the last Herald. Let's see, and fingers crossed, what he drops. You guys are going to be pretty surprised by it though. I feel like these zealots are worse than Fallen. And the hippogriffs or hypocrites or whatever they're called are not helping. She teleported directly onto me. That was spooky. I have no idea if she can one-shot me or not.
I can't carry anymore.
Ho-ho! Tankreds! Bet you weren't expecting that. Way better than a latent Sunder Charm. Man, I gotta do this again. Yeah, they really need to fix the drop rates. I'm so glad that patch 3.2 hopefully fixed that. I guess we'll find out. I think this is the first time in 25 years I've ever cleared this side of the throne room. One last time, I will prove to you guys this has been Players 8 the whole time. I'm not going to edit this portion, and I'm going to type in Players 8 multiple times, and you guys can see I have no issue killing any of these guys. I've never noticed that this level looks like Bale's face with his crown. I guess I've probably never noticed it though because I've never cleared the sides. So that's pretty neat. Oh my goodness, look where we're at. We're finally gonna kill Bale. And unfortunately this is a super long fight, which was honestly kind of interesting and unexpected considering the rest of the bosses were not really that hard. They didn't take that long, but for whatever reason, Bale is much harder.
My brothers will not have died in vain.
Of course he spawns his stupid clone. And of course the stupid clone won't disappear when I go back to town. As you can see, I start to get desperate to make this go a little bit faster. About to use Hydra that does absolutely 0 damage to him. What if I use a Goatman and a Tainted? Maybe that'll speed it up a little bit. Oh my god, that was the clone? Oh, and the real one is practically full health. Okay, let's do it again, I guess. I thought about staying zoomed in for the rest of the fight just because, but then I thought if I die like this, that's going to be super embarrassing and frustrating, and I'm going to pretty much have to do it again because then people will say, oh, well, you couldn't do it, and so, yeah. I'm looking at my spells like I'm looking inside the fridge when I don't know what I want to eat. I just keep thinking that something's going to magically appear and be like, oh, here's your answer. Woohoo! That does a lot of damage. Wouldn't that be the way to go out? Almost kill Bale and then his little tentacles kill you? And there you have it. That's all Terrorized Zones on Extra Strong, Players 8 in Hell. Easy. Alright, that's the end of the run. This is how much gold I've got, 6.5 million. I'm gonna go ahead and take this out and start gambling. For all of you psychos that like to watch people gamble, don't worry. I didn't cut any of it out. You can watch it all right now. I think I'm going to start with circlets just because they're expensive. This one's okay, I guess. I'll keep that one. But otherwise, this has been a huge waste of money. Okay, that one's not bad either. I'll keep that one too. Okay, now I just really want a sling ring. And I already know the answer. I'm not going to get one. Here we go, final gear review. In my personal stash, really the only thing I kept were a bunch of charms so that I can re-roll them. In my shared stash, Got a bunch of uniques on this page. I got a surprisingly small amount of set items that were actually worth keeping. And then I got these 2 gambled circlets and 2 gambled rings that I'm going to hold on to. Just some tiaras for imbuing, and then gloves for crafting. Here's all the charms that I found. Some of them are really good. A lot of them I'll honestly end up just trashing. Here's a few rings that I found with some resistances. And then of course this awesome find. I cannot believe I finally found Amara's. I crafted a bunch of jewelry. This is the stuff that I kept. I crafted and found some stuff that has on strike or on attack or once struck. I'm probably going to mess around with a build like that in the near future. I also crafted these really good boson gloves and then another pair of just mediocre gloves. Some random bases that I kept, most of which will go in the trash, just to show you guys what I found. Here's all the gems that I found. Surprisingly didn't find any chipped skulls. I have 1 perfect skull because of a gem shrine. I used 28 perfect amethysts and 14 perfect rubies. Otherwise, that's what I got. Here's my materials. And then for my runes, I'm not going to bother doing the math, but you can see that I used a bunch of nefs. Rows, I found a bunch. Ams, I used a few, found more than I used, and then same thing for soul. And then I've obviously got that Mal rune. Here's what it looks like when I cube all my gems. I won't cube my baby or toddler gems because I actually want to use this for crafting runes. Now, just like I wasted all my gold and didn't really find anything, let's waste all these gems. This one's mediocre, I guess. I won't waste my rubies or amethyst because I actually want to use those to craft. Well, like I said, I'm going to waste them. I guess that's it. One final review. Here's my skills. Just one to Blade Warp, and then I maxed Bind Demon, Engorge, Blood Boil, and Blood Oath, with everything else going into Demonic Mastery. I almost hit 96, so not even one level for all of this. Here's my base stats. And then here's my advanced stats. So 313 Magic Fine, 82 Faster Cast, and then 14% experience gain. Again, here's my Merc, Vamp Gaze, Ramble, Eth, and then an Insight. This was definitely a grind, but I definitely had a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next time.